Hello and welcome. You are watching UATV News with me, Ksenia Buhai. First, this hour, Ukraine ranks 25th in the world in terms of COVID-19 spread. 123,303 cases have been confirmed in the country. Since the beginning of the pandemic, 2,088 people were diagnosed with coronavirus infection over the past day. Overall, the number of persons infected with COVID-19 in the world has exceeded 25 million. The largest number of COVID-19 cases are registered in the United States, Brazil, and Russia. Ukraine will open its borders to foreign citizens when the spread of COVID-19 decreases. An incline in new cases must be recorded for at least 2 weeks in a row. However, the exact number has not been determined yet. Ukraine closed its borders for entering foreigners between August 28 and September 28 due to a record-breaking increase in the quantity of cases. Safe conditions of schooling is the state's main priority. The President of Ukraine congratulated pupils on the Knowledge Day. Olena Zelenska emphasized that compliance with the coronavirus quarantine rules by teachers and parents will help children quickly adapt to new conditions in schools.
Школа онлайн – це не вихід.
Online schooling is not an option because for our kids communication remains the priority. I mean, they need a dialogue and a feeling of freedom. It is the kind of freedom and interaction that you can get only at school. Knowledge is perceived better when you can physically see your teacher and his or her individual attention to you. It is impossible to replace live teaching with online mentoring. However, we are ready for conducting online classes in case of a bigger wave of COVID-19. We implement this among the first states in Europe. We managed to gain our own experience, and it does work.
1st of September on the calendar. This year, the holiday was held in a new, different way. Quarantine made adjustments. Actually, not all Ukrainian schools have opened their doors to pupils. In the red quarantine zones, classes will be given online. More details on how Ukraine marked the Knowledge Day 2020 in the following report.
The Knowledge Day has been held in an unusual format today. As prescribed by the Ministry of Health, the entrance to the territory of educational institutions is possible only for those wearing a mask. Parents are not allowed.
Who is your teacher? Please wear a mask, treat your hands and come in.
There are sanitizers and body thermometers everywhere, in hallways, classrooms and the library, so that the children do not intersect. Lessons are given in different time for each group in a separate class. In addition, school territories are marked with special routes for the kids to follow, and some of them will even work in 3 shifts.
Last school year, the grades 5th, 6th and 7th were on the 2nd shift. At this time, the 10th grades are on the 2nd shift. Some children will have to start at 8 a.m. Others will begin their classes at 8:45 a.m. The rest of the kids will be at school at 12:20 p.m. and 12:45 p.m.
Some classes will be held outdoors, which makes parents happy. They take all limitations with understanding. They don't want to return to distance learning.
Since the rules have been established, they should be respected. If we came up with these rules, we should observe them. It's impossible to combine parents, work and kids schooling at the same time.
To minimize contacts, the kids will not change classrooms. For the time being, they should forget about the buffet in the dining rooms. Only 4 kids are allowed to dine at the table at the same time. In one of the schools in Dnipro city, the first bell for pupils rang in each class separately, formatted as a TV message. The day before, the teachers recorded a Knowledge Day greeting for the children. In Odessa schools, the Knowledge Day celebrations have been cancelled and pupils came to classes at different times. But the first bell did not ring everywhere today. For example, in Ivano-Frankivsk they decided to extend the vacations until September 11th. In addition, schools did not open in 10 cities and 11 districts caught in a red quarantine zone. Schooling there is held in a distance mode. Offline classes will resume as soon as the situation with spread of COVID-19 stabilizes. How long the offline academic year will last, no one knows. In a couple of months, seasonal flu will most probably add to the coronavirus pandemic. Reported by Roman Smoler, UATV News.
Ukraine's First Lady has tried on the role of a guide. Olena Zelenska conducted the first tour for pupils at the Mariinsky Palace. From now on, every Thursday, school children will be able to walk through the halls and listen to captivating stories about the etiquette of presidential meetings. The program will be adapted for children and the historical period they are studying. Entrance allowed guided tours will be held in the Mariinsky Palace after 12 years of restoration works. The Ukrainian president's main residence will begin to receive visitors. You can get to the palace from September 4th. Our correspondents have already been there and are back with the details.
The Mariinsky Palace in Kiev has been restored and officially opened. Exquisite Baroque, stucco, luxury and gilding. All this luxury in the state residence of the President of Ukraine. Such lightness, such an elevated mood, such a floor of incredible beauty, which is so interesting and so valuable that no ordinary citizen is allowed to walk here. But each of you can get there in case you will become the President of Ukraine. Reconstruction of the palace began in 2007. Due to the lack of budgeting, it had been restored during the tenure of 4 presidents. Instead of emphasizing the pomp, the restoration team's main goal is to preserve the original architecture of the 18th century.
Actually, this elevator is the only detail that does not fit into the architectural style of the 18th century. It was built in 1982 and constructed specially for Leonid Brezhnev's arrival in Kiev.
Until this day, the entrance has been closed to ordinary visitors. The palace has been presidents of other countries, international delegations, and state awarding ceremonies.
Actually, our task was to open the palace. Still, what should we show? What artifacts to display? What information to tell? And what exactly this tour is about? Gradually, we came to see everything within this short period of time. The Museum of the History of Ukraine has compiled an excursion program for us.
Excursions throughout the palace will allow people to get acquainted with a ceremonies hall, as well as the negotiations and dinners room. A separate display of fine art and gifts of Ukraine presidents has been prepared for future visitors. Shell casing from territory of the Russian-Ukrainian war. That was a maroon beret related of the first day of ceasefire. It's more a symbolic thing than just a plain uniform part. Tourists will not be allowed in the palace every day, only 3 times a week, on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. Upon the initiative of Olena Zelenska, every Thursday organized groups of school children will get free access to the palace. The rest will have to pay for the entrance. The ticket price is 150 hryvnia. Reported by Yamin Khaddour, UATV News.
They protect and restore on their own in the village of Pechera in Vinnytsia region. The local community revives the church shrine of the Pototskys family. It was designed by the architect Vladislav Gorodetsky. For the master, the village temple served as the testing site preceding the construction of his famous house with chimeras in Kiev.
In Vinnytsia region, activists continue to restore the Pototskys church shrine. Molding on wet concrete, sculptures, granite cladding, tiles from France and forged doors. The tomb church has never been renovated for almost 120 years.
Використано сосна, дуб, сосна.
In Soviet times, when religions were prohibited, this church functioned as a cinema. Now it is a Catholic church with due services again.
To ja, jako w niebie, tak na ziemi, chleba naszego powszedniowego daj nam dzisiaj. I odpuść winy nasze, jako my odpuszczamy winowajcom naszym. I nie wódź nas na pokuszenie, ale zbaw nas od złego. Amen.
Building in a form of Latin cross in the style of Romanesque modernity was designed by the architect Władysław Horodecki.
Є така легенда, що
There is a legend that one of the experimental buildings, a testing sample of the house with chimeras, was this very church. He was improving his architectural skills here. Moreover, he invented a new cement formula while constructing it. The construction was completed in 1904. The basement serves as a burial place.
Похований Константин.
Konstantin Pototsky, who was born on May 17, 1815, was buried here, and here next to it there is a grave of Józefa Potocka. Alexander is one of those who patronized the church. He explained his interest by the desire to preserve the family history.
Мій прадід.
My great-grandfather was the head of a village of Pechera in the time of Pototsky. Local activists aspired to turn the church and the park around it into a tourist attraction. Online tours in English and Polish are being prepared for future visitors.
є в Франції.
In France, they have their Eiffel Tower. A lot of people know about it. If you missed it during a travel, you just wasted your time. The same is here. To be in Vinnytsia region and not to see this chapel means not to get a proper experience. Reported by Roman Smoler, UATV News.
That was our final story this hour. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter pages.